Hey y'all, welcome to another What Else is Going On, aka We Go podcast episode. I'm your girl, your host, Taria. We are getting ready to get into the Real Housewives of Miami, season 7, episode 10. I'm gonna tell you, I'm enjoying Miami. And for as much as some of the things I want us to move on from, I'm still enjoying it. First order of business, I need about four of y'all to get to my house and help me take these braids out. Like I'm giving myself to the close of business on Sunday. They need to be out. So if I take like maybe some out tonight, some out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's the worst part. But anyway, I'm gonna get them out. But let's get into this. So the episode opens up. All the ladies are getting ready to go to Sevilla. Is that how you say it? Frankie, Alexia was packing. Frankie told Alexia her boots were horrible, and she said Todd didn't like them either. Child. So again, Gertie's packing with Russell, and Russell's like, yeah, let's hope for a good time. So the ladies are arriving at the airport. We find out that Alexia lived in Spain from 17 to 23. She said she lived in Madrid, and Madrid is more of a metropolitan city like New York versus Sevilla is more of an elder city. Of course, Lisa is late. And they're like, where is Lisa? Where is Lisa? Here's my question. I feel like I'm yelling to y'all. Is production giving Lisa the wrong call time on purpose? I would think for this trip, they would not do that. Like I heard at the reunion that it comes out that production gave Lisa a different call time when they were going to Alexia's goddess party. Because, you know, that started that whole thing with Stephanie and Lisa about being late. And evidently they're saying it came out that production did that. Would production actually do that, y'all think, for this? Like, because that's doing a lot. That's doing the most, but we'll get into more of that later. 2 hours later, it's Stephanie, Larsa, Adriana, and Julia are leaving on Stephanie's plane. Child, take a drink every time Stephanie mentioned a private plane. Don't do it because you're going to have alcohol poisoning. Y'all, when I tell you, I was loving how she was on Alexia's neck, but now I'm kind of also like, move on, find something else to be on her neck about because this is tired. But she gets there, lets us know. She's like, where's the Birkin? She's carrying a $70,000 Birkin, and there's smaller Birkins inside the big one, child. In her confessional, Stephanie said she's never been this super social, full of friends type of girl. It don't even got to be a full. She could have said, I've never been the type of girl to have any friends, and I could see it a little bit. I'm sorry, we don't know what's going on with her sisters, but I've said it in earlier episodes. I wonder if she's the reason her sisters don't really speak to her. But then the sisters don't speak to the parents as well. So I don't know. But then you wonder, are the parents on Stephanie's side, do Stephanie and Masood fund their life? We don't know. All speculation. But she says she's trying to do new things. So she's gives them all gifts, which is Julia, Adriana, and Larsa. She gave them a full face LED mask and some branded Shoma pajamas. She said they're very VIP because not everybody gets those pajamas. So then Adriana is funny. She says it's a tough life, but somebody got to live it. And I'm grateful that you chose me basically to be on this private plane with you. Julia said, well, Kiki chose you. Stephanie said Kiki did make it easier. So then she goes into asking Julia and Adriana, were they good? Were they okay? Adriana said, look, I went into this thinking, oh, you chose to take a private jet overriding with me. Like I wasn't even like a consideration. And Julia was like, no, I just felt like it's not my plane, not my rule. She asked me, I'm going to go. Now, in the confessional, the producer asked Julia, would she have ridden commercial with, like, which did the thought ever cross her mind to just go ahead and ride commercial with her friend? She said no. They all decide. Well, Stephanie asked, should we take bets on whether or not Lisa is going to make the plane on time? Then they bring up Lisa and Larsa's relationship. Larsa said, look, we cordial. Lisa still has not unfollowed Marcus. Like, basically, my ex is causing me issues and you're still following him. Stephanie goes and puts on her pajamas. Julia said, do you think our friends are bitching about us or are they happy for us? Stephanie's like, there's no way they're happy for you being on a plane. And look, I could see them being like, oh man, I would have loved to ridden on a plane with my friend. But also, if I had to ride on someone with someone who I'm not as close to, like we're all friends, but my close girlfriend is commercial, I feel like you probably have more fun with your girlfriends, even though you're on this private plane, but y'all don't even really know Stephanie like that. You're getting to know her, right? I don't know, but I feel like Stephanie wants people to envy her life and wants people to be jealous of her life. Dr. Nicole is like, I get money. I get money. Do, do, do. I get it. But she doesn't do it in a way that Stephanie does it. Dr. Nicole just lives in her money. Stephanie got to let everybody know about the Birkins, the closets, the bags, the house, the this. She's very, I keep saying this, but I feel like her identity is wrapped up in money. For somebody like Stephanie, I would hate to see what would happen if she didn't have the money. Like, how would she be then? All right, moving on. So Stephanie brings up Marisol's party and said it was good. And Larsa wants to know, well, why were you and Alexia fighting? She said Alexia tries to belittle women and belittle her to make herself feel better. So Julia's like, wait, did she try to belittle you or belittle women? Stephanie says she thinks both. Julia said, well, here's my advice. If you think she's trying to belittle you, stick to the point without bringing up other women. And I said, well, Stephanie did say both. So she said she don't think that Alexia belittles other women. Adriana said, you didn't see her belittling me for 2 straight years. So Julia says, you're good with her now. Why are you bringing up the past? You have this thing about you that you do. I love you, but basically you always bring up the past. I said, I know Julia ain't sitting on this plane telling Alexia that she always brings up things of the past when you came onto this season with a storyline from a cruise that happened 2 years ago. Or was it 2022? It was either 2022 or 2023. And you talking about she holds on to something, at least with Alexia and Adriana, that was actually real beef, real issues. Yours wasn't, from what we found out. And the cruise line verified that. So, like, girl, I said, Julia, get out of my face. Ooh. Anyway, Julia says Alexia is going through a rough time and she can't take jokes right now because, Stephanie was joking about Alexia and Todd. And Stephanie says, it's not my fault. I said, see, people like Stephanie, girl, they will make you, girl, like nobody's saying it's your fault. But the thing is, you joking on stuff that you don't know about. You said it once. Yeah, you believe she shouldn't be with him. Mind your business, though. That's it. You don't got to keep making it known. It's annoying. Anyway, in her confessional, Adriana says fun fact, Spain has 5 different types of Spanish within its own country. The official language is Castilian. And I said, I love that Adriana just knows things like that. Like, she really is smart. So the private plane lands, the ladies all arrive. Julia on the van on the way to their hotel, Julia says there's one presidential suite, and she made the executive decision to give it to Alexia since the trip is for her. I mean, I guess that does make sense, right? Even though you would think one of the hosts, but since there's only one, they're probably like, okay, we're gonna give it to Alexia. So they all get there, and Stephanie finds out that her room has been upgraded to a presidential suite. And Julia said, it's not me. Stephanie said, then it was Masood. In her confessional, she says her husband spoiled her for her 40th birthday. And now this. When she goes into her suite, she has roses all over the place. I said, now who gonna clean? Roses all over the place and Chanel gifts. And yeah, I said, yeah, she's got flowers everywhere. She's got a patio, what you want to call it, like a patio area where she can go out. And in her confessional, Adriana said, I've had a lot of men do nice things for me. One flew me in his helicopter to his personal island. Flowers were everywhere, candles were everywhere. And then shortly after, he died in his helicopter, flying back from the island to Palm Beach. 16 hours. Well, the other lady's trip was 7 hours, I think. The I was going to say Palm Beach. The private plane people, I believe their trip was 7 hours. Everybody who rode commercial, it was 16 hours. Child, the ladies arrived looking like they was rode hard and put away wet, baby. They is ready to be done. Okay. Alisa did miss her flight. This is why I say if it's not production and it was just Lisa, unless it, I was going to say unless it was emergency. Who am I to dictate what an emergency is? But I do think like that would have me a little bit bothered too. It's supposed to be a girls' trip. Then again, it would be like, why am I bothered? I'm here. If you ain't here, that's on you, right? So Lisa missed her flight. She had a layover. Alexia said, I love that Lisa is safe, but I would really appreciate if she sent us a text saying that she wasn't going to make the flight and she was going to get on another flight. I said, that's crazy that it was almost 24 hours we learned later and she said nothing. I would be concerned too. Like that would really piss me off. Like, girl, now I'm worried about you. And so Adriana, Stephanie, Larsa, and Julia meet at the bar for a drink. They showered, they've changed. Stephanie talked about she's just obsessed with her husband and loves being in his presence. Julia says, well, I love that for you, but thank you for choosing to be with us. So Stephanie said, yeah, I feel like there's things that need to be discussed, but they need to be nipped in the bud and move on to be friends. She wants to make it very clear that although she does believe that Alexia should choose her words more wisely, I don't not like her. I said it in my notes. I have. Now, y'all know I don't really see it for Alexia a lot, but Stephanie's sitting here saying that Alexia has Napoleon syndrome because that's what Stephanie said. Alexia has the short man like Napoleon syndrome. And she feels very small. She goes to bed and wakes up in the morning wanting to feel superior and bigger than others. I truly feel like that is Stephanie. And she does it with money. I truly feel like that. I said, if that ain't the pot calling the insecurity kettle, baby, it's sad. The other ladies arrived. So the other ladies get there, they're hugging. Julia hugs Alexia and says, get ready. We were talking about you. That would piss me off if I was Alexia. If you're my friend, we didn't rose separately. I didn't traveled all day. It's not like we were just in a car for an hour and you're like, girl, wait till I tell you. No, I'm tired, probably want to shower, been traveling for 16 hours. And as soon as I step foot, happy to be there, be with everybody, it's like, girl, get ready. We've been talking about you. So then my mind is, who is we? What were y'all saying? Da 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 da. You didn't say all good things. Like Julia, girl, have it like, let her have a drink. So Alexia says, I don't care. What do you mean talking about me? So in her confessional, Adriana says, who are you, Julia? Like, I don't even recognize you. You're like a little puppy right now, running over to Alexia. So Larsa asked where Lisa was, and Alexia says she missed her flight. Child. Alexia tells them she was able to get on her next flight and she's already in Madrid. She's just on her way to Sevilla. The other ladies want to go ahead and shower, get ready for dinner. And Julia walks with them and says, oh, I want to go with them and give them their keys. So Stephanie says, we haven't even been off my plane for 2 hours and this is how she repays me. I said, I knew that was going to come back up like I did just for you. And I mean, I do kind of get Stephanie saying, yo, I was just kind of like venting a little bit and here you go, already starting the trip off like clearly is going to be some energy. And I thought I was venting to you. I didn't took you on my plane. At the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, their stuff ain't really that big to me. But anyway, she says she doesn't even let me have the conversation. She goes and gossips. This is a horrible, disgusting move. Julia comes back and Stephanie says, I got a question for you. Why you gonna run your mouth to Alexia? That's pretty much what she said. She said she ain't even been here for 2 hours. Why are you gossiping? So then Julia says, gossip? Girl. She said, I told her we were talking about you. Larsa said, but why would you do that though? And I was with Larsa. I feel like Larsa was genuine in that moment. Like, but why would you do that? Like I was with her. Julia said, I didn't tell her what we talked about, which to me is even worse. Again, you got this girl. This girl don't know what she said. Stephanie is pissed. She said, you're the one talking about this trip has to be fun. This trip has to be great. No drama. And you're stirring the pot. And it hasn't even been 10 minutes. She said, well, stir away because I have the biggest effing spoon. Itch. I said, oh. Larsa said, Julia is like, in her confessional, she said, Julia is like one you have to watch out for. Those are the ones, they do the dirty work when you're not there. Yeah. Then she says, like Marisol. I said, oh, and everybody has said that about Marisol. Let's go back to Dr. Nicole's appearance on Dr. Tiffany Moon's podcast when she said she heard Marisol she knew that a housewife had hired a private investigator. And people figured it was Marisol. But for Larsa to be like Marisol when Marisol didn't have nothing to do with the conversation, I said, mm-hmm. Julia says, Stephanie, I like you, but stop with the attitude, please. Stephanie said, I like you, but don't go and tell somebody that we were talking about them because the only thing we were talking about was my situation with her. Like I was talking about my situation with her, which again, when you think about it, yeah, if I got into a situation with somebody, I can talk about it. They do a cheers, and Stephanie says, cheers to finding out who your true friends are. And Julia just did that Joker smile. Y'all notice Julia's smile is like, girl, what is you grinning at? Anyway, the ladies are getting ready. Julia says, I'm ready to go. And she's covered with a snake, I guess, the necklace. I said, that's fitting. They show Marisol and Alexia getting glam. And Marisol in her confessional says, Alexia secured the glam. And I was just so happy. I said, will you share it with me? So Marisol tells Alexia, I'm glad you wanted to do this. Julia and I really wanted to distract you. Alexia said, yeah, but I find it weird that as soon as they saw me, she told me they were talking about me. Alexia said, I don't know if I should be happy. What were they saying? Nice things about me? Like, what were they saying? Stephanie and Larsa are getting ready, and somebody keeps calling. Somebody called Larsa's phone, and she's like, hello, 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 hello. She says, somehow this guy got her number and keeps calling her from different numbers saying, I have a crush on you. Child, here comes Stephanie. Can I say something? No, you say too much. Patty Duke, we look alike. I know I said that before, but anyway, she says, are you dating anybody? And Larsa said, yeah, nothing crazy. She said, I mean this. Stephanie says, I mean this in the most loving way. I feel like maybe you should try to stay away from athletes for a couple of months and try a businessman. Or do you like athletes? Now, maybe I could give Stephanie a little bit and say, Larsa, maybe keep an open ear to that. Larsa says, I'm open to whatever the universe has for me. Stephanie said, I just want you to be happy. So one of the glam people said, I think Larsa thrives on being a MILF. And she's like, no, 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 it doesn't matter. And they were like, basically, if you had a 35-year-old or a 25-year-old man with all this money and a 60-some-year-old man with all this money, who would you choose? The 25-year-old. So Larsa was basically like, I like to go out and have fun. Everybody don't like to go to bed at 8:30 like Stephanie and her man. She said Stephanie can't keep up with a 35-year-old. I stay up all night. Right. Stephanie said, well, there's been times we've stayed out till 9:30. Anyway, Stephanie says, so what do you think Julia did after we left the bar? Larsa said, I hope she didn't go run back and say more stuff to Alexia because then Alexia is going to come in basically on the defense. And that's what I was saying. You're already setting the tone for Alexia to be defensive and feel like y'all were talking about me. You didn't say, oh, it was good stuff. You didn't say that. So I'm automatic. When somebody says, oh, somebody was talking about you, girl, sometimes our mind does kind of go negative, especially when you're with a person that I have had a back and forth with, right? So Stephanie said, I was venting and I actually thought I was in a safe space and it really hurt my heart. She was like, in her confessional, she said, so they need to get used to the fact that if you come for me, if you think you're going to stir the pot, I'm going to stir it right back. I'm going to flip the table right back. I'm going to go nuts right back. I'm not staying quiet. I said, a part of me feels like Stephanie kind of wants a little something. Like, and I hate when people say they want a moment, but I kind of feel like Stephanie kind of do want a little bit of a moment. Like, girl, it's not like when they all get to the restaurant, a musician is singing that Marisol hired. So he said he wants to sing something to Alexia about love, child. He sings with all of his heart to her. He got to singing. I think it's flamenco singing. Is that what that was? Alexia gets emotional. And I have to say, I really like Alexia's confessional look. That was in my notes with the blonde hair and like the beige dress. I thought she looked really good. Larsa and Stephanie are laughing because now Marisol's crying and Larsa's in her confessional like, I don't feel no emotion. I don't even know what this is. The food starts coming out and Kiki's like, what is this? And Marisol is explaining. And here is where on a girls trip, that would be the only part that would make me a little bit anxious because I love girls trips, but I don't know if I've ever talked about this before, but I don't know. I just have a food thing. I'm very much like what I like, and I don't like trying new things. And not that I just don't like it. My body has a physical reaction. I start to like sweat a little bit. I start to get nervous. My stomach is in knots. It gives me a feeling like I can't describe it. Almost like anxiousness at the thought of trying new food. And then you go somewhere, right? Somebody will be like, try this or try that. And you say no, and people can't leave it alone. And like, even in my older years, like I'm learning people can have a boundary. Even if you say, eat this, oh, you want a piece of cake? No, I'm trying to cut back. Girl, eat it. You're fine. No, they said no already. Why are you trying to, get them to eat it? Because I've done that before. And it's like, well, no, they said no. And I feel like that with food. And people will say, you don't know what you're missing. Nothing, because I've never had it. You don't miss anything you've never had. My body physically, I feel like I cannot handle trying new food. My son looked it up. It's some type of phobia, he said. But so that might be the only contention for me on a girls' trip because I would want people to leave it alone. I don't want to try it. And I know that in certain cultures, it could be considered disrespectful not to try food. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I truly I can't even describe the feeling that comes over my body when someone is like, try this. Or when we're going to a restaurant with people who may not know that I'm like that. And they're like, oh, girl, that's all you're going to get. I stick to steak, chicken, short ribs, stuff like that. I don't eat seafood. I don't like the texture of watermelon. I don't like banana. Like, I just like what I like. And we could go to any restaurant. I can always find something. You know why? Because a restaurant is always going to have bread and potatoes. So me watching them eat that, or like when Kiki was like, "What is this?" It must be nice to be okay with trying new food because like I don't have that experience. So my body literally is like code red when that happens. So shout out to them. Like I said, that would be my only bone of contention. Outside of food, I'm out of the box in every area of my life. I'm gonna step out on faith, do this, do that, do this, do that. But when it comes to food, I tell people all the time, just let me have my box and don't say nothing about it, please and thank you. But anyway, they look like they were enjoying themselves. So Julia welcomes them all and says, Alexia, we really wanted to make you, we really wanted to make it very special for you. We know you need it. Alexia says, and you have, I'm happy to be here with all of you. In her confessional, she said her friends are like her family and she has so much love and support from everyone. That's the only reason that she's still standing. So she tells the ladies at the table, no matter what, even when we have our differences, we always come together and support and we're there for each other. Kiki says, except for one person, where's Lisa right now? As we're talking, I said, whoop, it's gonna be something. They're not letting this go, Lisa being late. So somebody said she's on a train, and Kiki and Stephanie both were like, a train? Because there were no flights. She had to fly from Miami to London, London to Madrid. And then when she got to Madrid, she had to get on a train to Seville. In her confessional, Gertie says, I cannot picture little Lisa with all that luggage having to do all that. Larsa in her confessional says, Lisa might end up in Poland or Italy. At the table, Adriana said, I feel like she's paying the price because of her actions, because nobody wants to take them a train out of Madrid all the way to Sevilla, right? Stephanie said, well, ladies, tomorrow we're going to the Tilly store. She makes, I'm sorry, Atelier. I said Tilly. That's how it translated because I use voice notes to take my notes. She said she's going to the Atelier. Is that what she said? Store. This shop makes fabulous, luxurious couture flamenco dresses. And Marisol said, thank you, by the way, for recommending that. It was an amazing recommendation. Stephanie was like, well, we all have appointments. I don't know how you guys would handle it, but if there's an appointment for Lisa, does she still get the dress made? Or does she not get it made? Marisol said, well, there's appointments. Let's give her the last one. If she doesn't make it and the lady closes the shop, she's out of it. So Larsa said, I just think it's very disrespectful and rude. Julia says, yeah, it is both. So Marisol says she feels like it's a diss to the group. Like they're not that important to Lisa and it hurts. And I do find it not odd. I won't even say I find it. I'll say I've noticed Marisol is speaking out more about it now. And I wonder if that's because Stephanie is so vocal about it. Because remember when Lisa was late to the Goddess event, Marisol said in her confessional, like finally somebody after what she said, 11 years is saying what they've all been thinking. So maybe now Marisol's like, I'm in good company and I've been feeling like this, right? Because I didn't know Marisol felt that strongly about it. Or maybe it was this trip that really nailed home like, girl, we are halfway, like, and we ain't heard from you in 24 hours. So Julia says the least she could do is check in with us. And I do agree with Julia. And Alexia said, yeah, that's the worst thing. Julia says she acts like she don't give it. And I'm not okay with that. Larsa says, enough talking about Lisa, enough. We had the best time on the plane with Stephanie. So Marisol said, oh, I'm so happy for you, joking. Stephanie said, I felt really bad that I had to split y'all. And then she says to Marisol, but you were my first invite. In my notes, I said, I'm tired of talking about these flight invitations. We're all here. Like, like with Stephanie, she wants it to be known. Like, yes, I invited. Girl, we know. We get it. Oh, she's irritating me. So Marisol said, now this is where I feel like Alexia told Marisol, hey, Julia told me the ladies were talking about me. Remember when they were getting their glam done and Alexia told Marisol, here's where I was like, oh, Marisol probably was like, I got it. I'm going to mention something tonight. Because Marisol comes in and says, when we first arrived, did you guys, meaning the group that came with her, did y'all feel like there was a weird energy? I said that was for Alexia to like, Kiki said, yeah, because they had because they had like a private plane type vibe. Of course, Marisol says, yeah, I felt this really weird vibe. Like, oh, you guys, oh, they're here. And then somebody, I forget, child, don't say in my notes. Child, who was I talking about? Somebody brings up Julia. Oh, Marisol, I think, brings up Julia telling Alexia that they were talking about her. Notice Marisol didn't bring, I mean, notice Alexia didn't jump in and say, yeah, I noticed a weird vibe. And then Julia came and told me somebody was talking about me. No, Marisol brought it up. Larsa said, it wasn't a weird vibe or anything. Literally, Stephanie was saying she wanted to get to know you. It wasn't like mean spirited in no way. She just wanted to talk and kind of get it off of her, get off of her back and get everything squared away. Alexia said to Stephanie, I feel like you spent all this time trying to get to know the rest of the girls, but you judged me since day one. Stephanie said, that's not true. Alexia said, it is. It is. Like when Mia said, you did. But anyway, Alexia said, I thought when you took me to Marisol's pool house, you were going to tell me, like, yeah, I couldn't make the private plane work for everybody. And Marisol jumps in and says, but that you could make it work for us. Alexia says, but it was hurtful, the things you said, that I think she said the defamatory thing. Child, I said defamatory into my phone. My phone translated fatmatory. Who is that? Anyway, Alexia said, but it was hurtful, the defamatory things and lies, because you don't even know me. So how can you accuse me of belittling women to make myself feel better about myself and feel more important? She said, you're new to this group. I said, now this, I said, Alexia might have got her a little bit because she said, you're new to the group. But no matter what, all these girls have been by my side for years. So you're just not going to come in the group trying to change the dynamics. I said, but baby, Stephanie said, no, 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 no. She said, okay, so you're not going to tell me what kind of dynamics I'm going to, she said, A, you're not going to tell me what kind of dynamics I'm going to change. B, I'm so sorry that you were offended, but sometimes the truth hurts. I said, here we go. They about to get into it. Alexia said, who do you think you are? She says, Stephanie Shoha. Is that Shohaji? Is that how she said? She said, and I'm Alexia Nipola. Stephanie said, and I think you're very insecure. Alexia said, look up insecurity yourself. Look it up yourself. They're going back and forth. Stephanie says, you have this. And she starts beating on her chest. I'm Alexia. Girl, like a ape. I'm Alexia. Mind you, Stephanie has that too, though. I said, I'm tired. Alexia said, I'm sorry if my confidence bothers you. I'm sorry. Stephanie starts saying, jealousy is a disease. Jealousy is a disease. Which housewife had that as their tagline? Jealousy, a disease. You might want to get checked or something like that. Y'all remind me. A housewife had that tagline. Was it in New York or something? Anyway, Alexia said, jealous of what? Stephanie says, go to a therapist. I also want Stephanie to go to a therapist to work out her insecurities that are wrapped in money, but she could have a point with Alexia as well. Julia is sitting in her confessional, and she's saying, had I known that Alexia would have done all this, I mean, had I known that telling Alexia would have done all this, I never would have done it. I said, shut your stupid. I said, be quiet, Julia. So they're going back and forth. Marisol's like, wait a minute, stop, stop, stop. Where did all of this go wrong? Stephanie says, I'll tell you, I've tried at every event to talk to Alexia every time. One thing I notice about Alexia, she won't let you finish. She listens to respond, not to like actually take in what you're saying. Because even in the beginning of this dinner, when Julia was like, thank you so much for all coming together for Alexia. We want to facilitate this nice thing for you. Alexia jumps right in. Boom. She didn't even let her finish. And then right here, Stephanie says, I've tried to talk to Alexia at every event. Alexia's like, and I always reciprocate. Stephanie says, by calling me a chihuahua, Alexia said, you take things too personal, my friend. In her confessional, Larsa says it's really hard to go toe to toe with Alexia. It's brutal. But at the same time, I've never seen Stephanie this heated. And maybe because I grew up on Atlanta, where my aunties, when they say, oh, like on this franchise, it's so hard. Nobody wants to go toe to toe with them. I don't think what they be saying is nothing. Like have these same conversations in Atlanta or even with Candace and Potomac. Like this is lightweight. A Chihuahua, a Rottweiler. Okay, you know what I mean? So when Larsa says it's brutal, I guess maybe when somebody doesn't let you talk, chop, years ago, I had to step in between my girlfriend and these two other ladies. My girlfriend was trying to get her point. My girlfriend let them get their point across, and then it was my girlfriend's turn to talk. They had pulled me into it. I said, here we go. But of course, I'm going to have my girlfriend's back, right? But I was trying to mediate. And my girlfriend, they were like, okay, say your piece. And it involved children, right? Say your piece. So as my girlfriend's talking, one of the other ladies is saying, go ahead. So imagine saying a sentence like, yeah, so I felt, go ahead, go ahead. So every time she said a word, every time my girlfriend would say something, the other lady would jump in and say, go ahead, go ahead. Y'all, I jumped up so fast. I said, ho, because my girlfriend took a step back. And when she took a step back, I knew because she was going to get in position formation. So I guess I could understand if someone's constantly talking over. It's not like y'all are arguing back and forth. If you've got your point across and I'm trying to say something and you keep go ahead, it's about to be a problem. So maybe that's what Larsa means when she says going back and forth with Alexia can be brutal. So Stephanie says, why did you say you think I have a big head or I'm a kiss ass? Alexia said, because you think you can buy people. I agree. I do agree. Stephanie goes around the table and asks the people, do you feel bald? Do you feel bald? You got something? You got something? You got something? Remember that season of Potomac? You got something? Stephanie said, so Alexia says, Stephanie, you were dangling the carrot of who's going to ride in your jet. Stephanie said, that's not true. Alexia said, I don't care about those things. And I truly think, does Alexia want to live the rich life? Of course, they all do, right? But I don't think it's like how Stephanie's trying to make it seem. Like I do think Alexia thinks she's top dog, big dog, big bank takes little bank, meaning frame of mind, like mentality, like I'm the head of this group, da 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 da. But I don't think she's jealous of Stephanie's wealth. I really don't. Because she seems to mix in circles and has before people that are very, very, very wealthy. You know what I'm saying? So when Stephanie's saying like she's jealous, I don't. Alexia is a lot of things, but now y'all let me know if y'all see it differently. But I don't feel like Alexia is jealous. But so because I said, girl, Stephanie, you're exhausting. So Alexia said, I don't care about those things. Stephanie goes back to her thinking that Alexia is insecure. Stephanie says, do you ever get exhausted? Alexia said, do you? In her confessional, Gertie says, we ain't been in Spain for just a couple hours. And this is already on and popping. Like, Let the good times roll. Stephanie said, I'll take this moment to be the bigger person. And see, that's where instead of just saying, look, let me take this moment to say this, it's always a dig. Like, I'm going to take this moment to be the bigger person. But again, I think that's something that Alexia would say too, right? So she says, I'm going to take this moment to be the bigger person, to say to Alexia, I genuinely like you. I have not once said anything bad. I was rubbed the wrong way. Maybe I shouldn't have been. Alexia said, well, I was rubbed the wrong way too. So Stephanie says she felt offended when Alexia called her a sass because it didn't go hand in hand with calling me a big head 20 minutes prior. Alexia said, you were talking for 20 minutes about Todd. Stephanie said, I think the only rude comment that I made that I truly regret saying is calling him trash. And then they show the flashback when Stephanie was like, when God takes out the trash, let it be or whatever. She says, and then in her confessional, she says, look, I'm on her team. I'm not on Todd's team. I'm on Team Alexia. I said, and that's the problem. You're a rookie walking on. Alexia didn't try to recruit you to be on her team when it comes to Todd. So sit on the bench and learn the game. Like, she didn't ask you to say nothing about Todd. And even if you say, well, you know what? Alexia speaks on people, I'm going to give you that. But Stephanie said it once. But then she said it twice and three times. It was like, enough. We get it. She heard you. Why you keep talking about that lady's husband? Like, leave it alone. So Stephanie said, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your life. Again, Alexia didn't even let that finish. Alexia said, because you can't. Because at the end of the, nobody can. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the things I've said and done and shared about my relationship, like, I'm regretful. I think meaning she was regretful of some of the things that happened in the relationship, or maybe how she responded, or maybe she felt one way, then she feels another. So they end up trying to make amends. Alexia said, I think we're going to end up being great friends. So Alexia said, wait, I think we're going to end up being great friends. Stephanie said, I thought we were friends. Alexia said, but I mean great friends. In her confessional, Alexia said, I'm the type of person, after I get it out and say how I feel, I'm ready to move on. In her confessional, Stephanie says the same. Later on that evening, Lisa arrives and goes straight to Marisol's room. First, it was either Marisol or Alexia's room. She talks to the two ladies. They talk about her ride. There was a point in her travels where there was a random train station, she said, where nobody spoke English. So she had to maneuver all her bags because nobody understood what she was trying to say when she needed help. So Alexia said, so more importantly, what happened to you? Lisa said, pish posh. It's too late. We ain't gonna talk about that. We're in a beautiful place right now. We're not gonna talk about it. Alexia said, no, you're gonna have to say something. I was with Alexia on this. Marisol says, typically, in her confessional, she said, typically when Monkey does something wrong, she comes in with giggles and wants to give it a pass. And, Lisa's up dancing around, patting her butt, trying to give it the pass. She said, but at least at the bare minimum, she could have said, hey guys, I'm running late. I think I'm going to miss the flight. Like, she didn't have to let us know what was going on, but let us know something. Alexia tells her it was rude and disrespectful that she didn't communicate. So Lisa said, how? I said, oh my gosh, it's like talking to a kid with Lisa. Alexia said, girl. So Lisa said, we're not talking about that right now. I'm not talking about that. We're with positivity and light and love. In her confessional, Alexia laughs and says, narcissism, no one can take accountability. I was getting very frustrated with Lisa. Like, we almost went 24 hours without talking to you. I'm not talking about us being home, us hanging out the night before, us getting to our respective homes, and we're supposed to text each other in the group chat, hey, made it home safe. We talking about out of the country, and we ain't seen, you was not on the plane, and we've not heard from you for 24 hours. Girl, that is ignorant, because now you've got people worried about you. Like, I do think that's ignorant. So Marisol says, help us help you for tomorrow with the girls. And Alexia said, yeah, because they're pissed. She said, and then Marisol jumped in and said, if you have a huge reason why you're not going to make the trip, you should tell somebody. Lisa said, nope, I have my reason, and that's that. As she's sipping on whatever drink she's sipping on. Alexia said, well, why didn't you just tell us that? Why didn't you say, hey, girls, listen, not going to make it on time. I got it. I'm going to take the next flight. Very simple. I agree with Alexia. Y'all, I'm going to miss the flight, not going to make it. I'm gonna take a later flight out, talk when we get there. I'm gonna keep y'all updated, you know, with my route status. And that's it. That could have all been it. So Lisa says, Alexia, I can't get into it with you. Alexia said, well, the girls are mad. They think you're rude and disrespectful. In her confessional, wait a minute, hold on. Okay. In her confessional, they show an empty chair and you hear and 2 hours late. And the producers are like, do you know Lisa's ETA? Because she's late to do her confessional. 2 hours. Yo, that would send me. And then they showed the clip of, was it last year or the year before last? When she was late getting on the stage and Andy's like, there's no welcome train. Come on. That is so inconsiderate. And if it happens all the time with them, that would really, and she's never even sorry about it. If she did it and was truly remorseful, even though when you're remorseful, the behavior changes, but still, but it's just like, how does it affect you? Move on, girl. So then they show Lisa later on in her confessional. I guess she finally made it. She said, look, how does this affect them? They had dinner at the hotel. Who cares? I said, the fact that Lisa cannot see beyond herself is just, it's so selfish, so selfish. So then Lisa tells Marisol and Alexia, we'll deal with it tomorrow. Alexia said, I'm not dealing with nothing. I'm good. I said, I know that's right. That's on you. Lisa said, well, when they find out, they're going to feel bad when they find out what it was that she was dealing with. I said, that's not the point. You need to communicate and let somebody know something like, hey, I'm alive, period. But that was it for this episode. I enjoyed this episode of Miami. It was funny. They had the drama. It was going back and forth. Sevilla looks beautiful. I hope the ladies are in for a good time, but we know there's going to be some drama too. All right, y'all let me know what y'all think about the episode. Are y'all enjoying Miami? I know the numbers had went up, I think, a little bit last week. I wonder if the numbers did so well on Peacock when they first came back, they were on Peacock before they got put on Bravo again. And I wonder if it's because people aren't watching, people weren't watching live, but a lot of people are watching. So I'm curious to know what the streaming numbers are versus what the live viewer numbers are. And does that matter to Bravo and Peacock? I guess I'm sure it probably does, right? But anyway, y'all let me know if y'all are enjoying Miami. I feel like it's dramatic, but not dark, if you know what I mean. Again, y'all let me know what y'all think. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, y'all. Turn on your bell for video notifications. If you're watching me, please go over to wherever it is you listen to your podcast, type in what else is going on. Also follow the podcast there and vice versa. Hello, my friends out there in podcast land. If you are listening, can you please either click the link in the episode description or go to YouTube really quick, type in WEIGO podcast and subscribe to me there. I would really, really, really appreciate it. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at WeGo Podcast, Twitter at WeGo Podcast, TikTok at WeGo Podcast 1, and on Threads, WeGo Podcast. Y'all, I've been ticking it. I've been talking like a little bit. Love y'all. Talk to you later. See ya.